Let's go through the card for Forbidden Door. And we start things off with what is believed at this point to be the kickoff match, or at least the match that's going to start off the pay-per-view. And that is the championship match for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. And that is between MJF and Hiroshi Tanahashi. Kate, as one of our commentators said, expectations might be going in a little bit lower for this one after seeing Hiroshi Tanahashi on Rampage. Are you of that opinion? And we're probably not expecting a title change for this one, but are you expecting a good quality match?
I think that there is some value in having MJF go in and just annihilate Tanahashi. I think that if you want to make him an even bigger heel than he is now, that is a possibility. I mean, I'm not saying he beats him in 3 minutes, but just have him tee off on the guy, leave him wrecked, I think gives you an emotional moment in the match that I don't know if it can deliver quality-wise if you did it as a more balanced approach.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. I mean, despite maybe how Tanahashi looks, I think if there's anything we've seen is that he could still sell his ass off. And we know MJF knows how to work body parts. His whole offense is based off of the salt of the earth. And seeing Tanahashi tell a story by selling his arm, I think it might even be more believable now, seeing the state of his body. Maybe they'll use tonight's sort of botch to their advantage and say that Tanahashi's not 100%. It
would not be the first time they turned something like that and actually made it storyline, even if it didn't start that way.
Blame jet lag when all else fails. Still suffering from the effects of jet lag and the Canadian smog that's still blowing over from Quebec, and he's not feeling like himself. So we'll see how MJF takes advantage. I've known, I've seen enough from obviously both of these men, but especially from MJF in these singles pay-per-view matches to know not to underestimate, the type of special whatever creativity that we might get to see for this one. So I still have high hopes for it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think it's going to be very good. I think that if Tanahashi is feeling like he can't perform at his best, though, I would honestly just make it just MJF brutalizing him, because I think that then you continue to build the MJF monster for whoever will eventually take him on.
On Monday, when John Pollock and I return for our Forbidden Door post show, 12 p.m. Eastern time, here at youtube.com/postwrestling. Again, we will not be live tomorrow right after the event because we will all be in Toronto watching and hanging out at Forbidden Door, but we will be back Monday, 12 p.m. Eastern time for our Forbidden Door post show, where John and I will go through all of our detailed thoughts on the event. So do check us out then. Up next in the men's Owen Cup first round match, we have CM Punk taking on Satoshi Kojima. Now, keep in mind, I don't know the match order. This is just how I ordered all the match graphics, everybody. But CM Punk versus Satoshi Kojima, suddenly this became a very interesting match as well, just to see the crowd reaction that's going to be there for CM Punk. And he's not going to have a Ricky Starks to tag into to get the crowd on his side for this particular match. How do they play with the crowd reaction for this one?
Lean into it. Have him be a heel. Kojima plays a good guy. Like he's gonna be way more over because of the Punk situation than he might have been expecting. But he plays a good kind of heroic guy, and I think they're gonna have a good match. I wouldn't let it go overly long. And I only say that because I'm worried that because it's Punk, Tony might be tempted to say, go out there and do 20 minutes. No, it's a long card. Don't do that, Tony. But I think they'll have a very solid match. And I can't see any result. Like if Punk doesn't win this, I'm
yeah. And this being Punk's third match back and his first singles match at that, for a guy who had a year layoff coming off an injury, he's not going to go 20 minutes. He shouldn't. 8 minutes is more than enough for this to get some of the response, some of the reaction. Come in here, do your big spots. Let Kojima get his machine gun chops in. Punk hits the GTS and we get out of there. But, we've seen Punk in enemy territory before in this AEW run when he was did that show in Long Island, right? I totally want him to play into it. Come in, cut that promo, maybe say, despite being a Brett guy, Brett was from Calgary, not Toronto, so that might do it. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. Up next, we've got for the AEW International Championship, we have Orange Cassidy defending against Katsuyori Shibata, Zack Sabre Jr., and Daniel Garcia. Who do you see coming out of this one? Who do you see maybe being the talk of this match coming out of it?
I think this could be sleeper match, like one of the best on the show. Look, I think most people thought that Cassidy versus Ospreay last year was maybe the best match on Forbidden Door. This one, I think, given the caliber of the top two matches, I don't know that it's going to compete with them, but this has a lot going for it. I'm really interested to see what they do. I think Cassidy's going to retain because I think he has done so much with that run that you want him losing to be a statement. I could see a universe in which one of the other guys wins, but not by pinning Cassidy, which gives him a story to continue like chasing this belt. But I think the right decision is Cassidy to win, and you could even go back to him versus Swerve for the belt. I think most people thought Swerve was going to take it off him in the last match, but yeah, I think Cassidy retains.
I think so too. I think they built up so much in this Cassidy run, like streak, if you want to call it that like it deserves to be taken away by somebody who's actually going to run with the championship that's going to be sticking around in AEW. And certainly, that rules out Shibata and Zack Sabre Jr. And I mean, Daniel Garcia doesn't really feel like such a consistent presence.
He's not the guy. Yeah.
That I could see that title change taking place either. But yeah, you're right. This could completely steal the show, just judging by talent alone. I'm very curious to see, you have several submission-based wrestlers here in Orange Cassidy, who has every single limb that basically is in, shambles right now.
Good point.
Maybe, can he survive this gauntlet? Is essentially the story that, becomes for Orange Cassidy. We've got the BCC taking on the Elite. Well, the BCC plus Shota Umino and Konosuke Takeshita taking on the Elite, Eddie Kingston and Tomohiro Ishii in a 10-man tag. This one could be great as well. And when we're talking about possible show stealers, you absolutely have to maybe consider this one. Looking at just the incredible talent that's in there. The Blackpool Combat Club themselves, anytime they're in this sort of like, multi-man match setting, their pace and their style. Yeah. We saw the trios match with them and the Hung Bucks. That was just fantastic. And you throw in Shota Umino, you throw in Konosuke Takeshita, Eddie Kingston, Tomohiro Ishii, like this can't fail. This is already, one of the ones I'm looking forward to.
God, don't jinx it. Someone's going to get hurt.
No, please.
No. Okay. Although the Elite won the Anarchy in the Arena match, I think maybe they win this one, and I think Eddie pins Claudio to set up the rematch for Death Before Dishonor.
Right. So explain to me the wins and losses right now. The Anarchy, the Elite won Anarchy in the Arena.
Yes. Did they not? No.
Yeah.
Sorry.
BCC
Yeah.
won, right?
No. The one. Yeah. Sorry.
But the Hung Bucks beat the BCC.
The Hung Bucks beat the BCC. That's Sorry, I'm getting my wires crossed there. So yes, but the Elite got the last win is what I meant. So gotcha. If you really were trading out, because I don't think this quite feels like the blow off to this feud yet.
Oh no.
But and there's no reason to. It's a great feud. I've enjoyed every part of it. I think that even though if you're talking about trading off wins, it would make sense for the BCC to get it. I think that you do have a chance to set up a very hot program for Ring of Honor. And even though this is AEW, they have clearly referenced the rivalry between Eddie and Claudio. And the idea, and also the idea that it's not one of the Elite proper who gets the pin does give you a reason to further continue the feud.
I'm expecting great things between, showdowns between, well, obviously Mox and Eddie Kingston, that's one of the principal stories going into the match. Tomohiro Ishii and Claudio getting into it. Maybe if there's time for Takeshita and Ishii, I think that could be spectacular. Takeshita and Kingston, Moxley and Ishii, a lot of great, interesting pairings possibly to take place here. But my choice is going to also be the BCC for this one as well. We've got just added on Rampage on Friday, Adam Cole versus Tom Lawler, the most recent addition to the main card here. Big match for Tom Lawler, his first AEW match. I could imagine this being, a bit of a sort of test of sorts, and I don't exactly know what his contractual status is right now with anybody, but can you see him, becoming doing more for AEW, I should say, at least maybe after this?
I would love to see him work more with AEW. I mean, he plays a pretty considerable role in New Japan Strong, although that's shifted since they're not doing a weekly show anymore. He's all over a number of indie promotions. I really like him. I think that he's a character that crowds will connect with very well. I could see. I mean, this match is going to Cole. I can say that with some certainty. But I think that there's a chance for him to put in a really good appearance for himself. I kind of hope that Tony Khan licenses Kiss from a Rose for him to do his entrance too.
Oh, okay. Or maybe some new kids.
Yeah, well, he has a thing where he does the an entrance to Kiss from a Rose in a number of indie promotions. So I just like to see him, and he comes out with the roses and everything, handing them out.
If he does that, he's signed, and he's going to be over. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one to just be able to see how Tom Lawler may possibly impress the Toronto crowd, which I'm sure will be quite familiar with him. So that should be good. Let's go up next to just announced tonight, Sting and Darby Allin with Tetsuya Naito taking on Chris Jericho, Minoru Suzuki, and Sammy Guevara, Les Suzuki Gods. Much of the story going into this one has been between Sammy Guevara and Chris Jericho, and a little bit of a rivalry they have. I don't. And somehow Minoru Suzuki just kind of jumps in, and it's completely normal. But a lot of the momentum maybe has shifted towards Chris Jericho versus Sting now being sort of like the principal rivalry that we're going to get between here. How do you think that they'll tell the stories between the two, and who comes out of this one the victor?
I think that there are so many interesting combinations that you can do here. Like, I want to see Darby in the ring with Minoru Suzuki. I want to see how that goes for a few minutes. Obviously, I think you're building to Jericho versus Sting, but you also want Jericho versus Naito in there. They have been teasing low-key a more developed story between Darby and Sammy Guevara. And certainly if you're talking about people who could put on a spectacular match down the road, that one has legs. And I guess it depends on where they're going with Guevara's character. So I think this one has the potential. I want them to give this one. At the last pay-per-view, I know that it felt like the Jericho match went on way too long. I would like to see this one get enough time that we got to see a lot of different combinations of people, because I think that there's the potential for many of them to be interesting. I think that Darby, Sting, and Naito win, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Naito as well. I think we get maybe not necessarily the Sammy Guevara defection from JAS right this instance on the pay-per-view, but at least maybe a big wedge to lead us towards that. And I'm also thinking Naito doesn't come in here just to lose, and he's certainly not going to take the pin. Darby can always take a loss, but I don't know. Something tells me that who takes the pinfall here, I guess, is a good question.
I think Jericho. I think Sammy does. Yeah, I think that Jericho's going to take the pin. Maybe Sammy does something that leaves him exposed, like something that's not necessarily turning on him, but they could be interpreted either way, and something happens. Jericho takes a bat from Sting and gets, or Sammy stops Jericho from cheating, and in the process, the Jericho gets rolled up by Sting.
Maybe they'll come into a mashup of Judas with Kazane Nare.
Oh, no.
Wonderful choice at karaoke.
That scares me.
Up next, we've got for the AEW Women's World Championship, Toni Storm taking on the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Women's Champion, Willow Nightingale, but that championship not on the line for this one. maybe safe to say that Toni retains in this one, with Willow, having her own championship, being a part of the Owen Cup, and Toni kind of probably setting things up for a rematch with Jamie Hayter down the road, or maybe even one of the members of the Outcast. But how do you see the match going, and what are your thoughts?
I can see Willow. First of all, I was surprised. I thought it was the other belt that was going to be on the line, so I was kind of caught off guard when I saw the promo video. It's like, oh no, it's Toni's title on the line. I guess it made sense to me that it would be the New Japan title on the up for grabs, but that's it. I think Toni retains. I suspect it's going to be through shenanigans because they rely on that a lot with their women's programs, more than they should. And I think that they'll have a very good match. But yeah, I see Toni retaining because of the interference of the other outsiders.
Yeah, sadly, I think that might, be a pretty natural finish for any of these Outcast matches. Nonetheless, I hope the in-ring content is strong between these two. And I don't think, no pun intended, of course, but with their in-ring styles, I don't think there's any reason that it wouldn't be. No. Toni's have been having very good matches. Willow has, I think, also been having terrific outings every single time we've seen her. She's already over in Toronto, or at least, for the entrances we saw tonight. Placement of this match, I think, is going to be pretty important as well, because there's a whole lot of star power for them to contend with on this show. And this being a title match, we'll see where they put it. Towards the end of the night, I could see the crowd maybe not being as interested.
I would put it on very early, actually, because it does stand out from the rest of the card in that it's not strictly it's two AEW talents, even though one of them is holding a New Japan belt. The New Japan belt isn't in play. I would put this on. I might even go second in the night, and I don't want to make it seem like they'd be getting it over with, but it is going to feel. It feels like a little bit of an awkward fit already, so you want to get it in there when the crowd is still very energized. And I think this also might set, like, Toni retaining might also set her up to challenge Willow for her title. And I don't think that New Japan would have a problem with that. Toni made an appearance at the show where Willow won that title.
Right.
And she got very good crowd reactions.
Joining Juice, of course.
Yes. The Robinsons.
Yes. Yeah. Lovely. All right. Up next, we've got Jungle Boy Jack Perry taking on SANADA for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, a match in which neither man knows the other person. It's really just a match for the championship and the love of Eric Marcotte. Which photo will he take? Who will he take his photo with next? Do you have any thoughts and predictions for this particular match?
I think it's a given SANADA's retaining. I think this could be a very good match because I think that both of them are at a stage where they're kind of underrated as performers. I don't think we're getting a full-on Jungle Boy heel turn in this one, although I noticed on Rampage when they were showing his match, boy, was he leaning into those sort of heelish expressions and body language. Like, without saying anything, he definitely did not seem to be the sort of white meat baby face that he has been. I think that he's supposed to be coming out with Hook, and maybe something happens where he blames Hook for losing or whatever, or kind of takes it out on him. They may actually choose to continue with that, with the two of them being drafted into the tag team tournament that's going on, and have the breakup sort of continue through there. We shall see.
The two of them being blind drafted somehow ending up together. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could do it. It's maybe it does seem weird when people who you expect to be together end up together, but that's what randomness is.
That's it. That's it. Certainly the most interesting aspect of this is, what's going on with Jack Perry and whether or not this is the moment we'll get that heel turn. I don't really see it myself either, but you do need something to make this feel like a significant moment. Like, is it more worthwhile? It feels early, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, he just called Hook his best friend. It just feels a little
changing
early.
You see it. Yeah, I agree. I think that they've started this off and it's paced well so far, so don't start to rush it now.
But this could be a good match. This stylistically, I mean, I expect a lot of acrobatics. Is it going to steal the show? It's going to be really hard for any match on the show to steal the show, but let's hope it at least comes close. A match that I would say is more than likely to be the talk coming out of this one, at least from an in-ring content perspective, is the rematch between Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay for the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship. These two, of course, had their match at Tokyo Dome in the Wrestle Kingdom this year, where Kenny won the championship. My match of the year still thus far. I don't know about you, Kate. Yeah. So
same.
Huge expectations for this one. I want to know your thoughts on what you can expect in terms of style, in terms of winners and losers, and where this match takes place on the card.
Where it takes place on the card is interesting because they've emphasized that Danielson versus Okada is the main event. Now, if you to me, these are both, they're kind of semi-main events. So if Danielson versus Okada is going on last, this one goes on second last. As we were just saying, this is still my match of the year so far, and I loved that first match so much. And I think what was the most shocking thing about that match, though, was that you could kind of tell that they were leaving something on the table for the inevitable future rematch. And I'm almost scared to find out what that is, because these are people who are these are people who have put their bodies through a lot and who have not always been tremendously concerned for their own safety, even if they've been injured in the middle of a match. I want this to work out. I want this to be the perfect sequel to what was very close to a perfect match, because it was, and I'll be curious to see how they kind of change it, because of course the main thing is that the dynamic is completely shifted. Ospreay in Japan was fighting for the honor of the promotion, and Kenny was like, this place has gone downhill since I left, and I'm back. I'm here to save you. And he wins. Whereas Ospreay, of course, has been completely arrogant and a perfect heel. If you haven't seen his Twitter, he misery tweeted his trip to Niagara Falls yesterday. It's hilarious. Definitely check it out. It's a great content. And just sort of further cements him. It's just him hating on Canada, and it's great. It's funny because I was absolutely sure up until a few days ago that Ospreay was winning this one. So they do, Kenny gets the first one, Ospreay gets the second one. And then I remembered what they did with Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr. for the UK title, where Ospreay lost 2 or 3 times before he finally won the title from Sabre. And now I'm wondering if they go to a third match at All In, and the story is that Ospreay has already lost twice, he's definitely the babyface there. Or even if they were to stretch this out and not do the third one until next Wrestle Kingdom, Ospreay's the babyface there too. So is it more of a story if he's actually lost multiple times and has to come back? So, and does that make him even more of a babyface in an environment where he's already going to be taken as the babyface? So I've managed to trip myself up, because like I said, I was so sure Ospreay was taking this one. And now I'm like, I don't know. There's kind of a story to be had the other way too.
I think you make a great case for the other side, because I too would have said, okay, they go 50-50, build up to the rubber match, right? That seems to be the most natural, logical way of doing it. But I don't think booking in 2023 needs to be logical. Now, was that?
Sorry, that's just like the place falling down around my ears. Sorry, it's fine.
I was like, have they started the match already? I think what makes things a bit trickier for this instance is that it's an intra-promotional match, and politics are always going to be that much bigger of a factor when you have a top star from one company that you're loaning to another one. Can you tell a story where it's so completely one-sided heading into another match that presumably, if it's the third match is going to take place in All In, that is going to be on an AEW exclusive show? I don't know. I really don't know. Now, like we look at the other example though of like, Okada and Kaito Kiyomiya, where like that is more than one-sided, if there's a one-sided beating, if there ever was, and somehow Noah and New Japan Pro Wrestling have managed to able to figure that out. But New Japan and AEW are a bit more, I would say, at least their status is maybe a bit more similar. And are there political conflicts in trying to book a one-sided Kenny Omega dominant story ahead of the Will Ospreay redemption win? I don't know.
I think it's an issue. Yeah.
But it would be a great story, though. Great moment for Ospreay to like finally overcome Kenny. Like, what's the best story to tell if they are going to tell the match number 3? Like, if they're going to go to match number 3 and All In, is it them being 50-50 and then so Ospreay wins the championship back, defends it at All In, or is it Ospreay finally going one more time for the championship to win it in Wembley?
I don't know. I think that there are arguments in favor of both. And yeah, a lot of it may come down to the politics of booking. I also wonder if a lot of it will come down to the decision of who's winning the main event.
Completely, yeah. So that's another point. I think I would still say you put Omega Ospreay in the main event just because in ring they're going to have an in-ring style that, I mean, as grand as Okada versus Danielson is going to be, they're not going to be able to match the pace and style and spectacle of Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. You add in the sort of like, anti-Canada element in there, this crowd is going to be wild, okay? They're going to be wild for both of those matches, but I would say for this one especially if you have Don Callis ringside, okay? I would put this one in the main event, So I wouldn't really trust the billing so much because we saw from, the last pay-per-view, it was all about the 4 pillars match and they ended up ending with the other one. So
I think that the other thing is Tony Khan did drop this hint that he said, that they're doing something to set up an all-timer of an angle for All In. And that angle has to come in for the main event. Like they're going to be, if this is a really huge thing, it's going to be what they close the night with. So then it becomes a question of, okay, so what's the angle and which matches does it pertain to? I think because of Kenny's friend, it's a little easier to conceive of an angle that would be used for All In with that match than with Danielson versus Okada, but we'll see.
And lastly, Bryan Danielson versus Kazuchika Okada. No titles on the line, just 2 of the greatest of all time finally meeting in a bona fide dream match. Whether or not it goes last, what do you expect out of this match and who wins?
I expect a phenomenal match, and I don't know who's going to win. I've been leaning towards Okada, but I don't know. I guess it depends on whether or not they want to do, like, this is the first of multiple matches. Like, do they want to have Danielson over for Wrestle Kingdom? Like, do they want to do a part 2 to this at some point? But yeah, I find this one very difficult to call. I guess because not having a title attached to something liberates you somewhat, because then you don't have to take what the title story is into account. This is a one-off match. It could go either way. There are benefits and drawbacks to having it go both ways, but I think this one is there just to be an absolutely phenomenal match. Probably going to be, you fully expect that it's going to be on a lot of people's match of the year lists. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose in terms of booking, we've seen Danielson take plenty of losses and Okada not as many losses. So I feel like logic would tell me Danielson is able to lose this one, and Okada, maybe a lot more riding on him and his value. Although I guess going to the G1, maybe a loss isn't that big of a deal. And but especially if they're going to build to a rematch later on, then yes, Okada could lose this one. But something tells me I'm still going to go with Okada winning it.
Yeah, me too.
In terms of match style, I mean, for both of these semi-main events, I think you look at maybe no less than 30 minutes for both of them, especially for an Okada main event. But I'm also curious to see if we see any sort of difference in like the Okada 30-minute main event that we typically get, with Bryan Danielson in there. I'm expecting the content to be a lot more engaging before the final stretch. You know, where do they kind of draw the medium between maybe, you know, an AEW style or North American style and maybe a New Japan style? I'll be very curious to see.
Mm-hmm. And I think that Danielson, he is the king of the long matches right now. The Iron Man match with MJF, his debut match on AEW, 30-minute match with Kenny Omega, both matches he had with Hangman Page, these have all been spectacular. And so if he may be the best person at crafting a long match in the wrestling industry right now, and I have a feeling that he will have more say than Okada in this case in how the match is structured.
Will he have a counter for the money clip?
The money clip hasn't been as effective, or he hasn't been using it as much lately, but it's going to come into play.
I'm just hoping for that like big final stretch where they just like go creative counter for creative counter, and like just to be able to think about what Danielson will have to counter the Rainmaker or Okada to counter the LaBelle Lock. I'm very interested to see. With the 7 p.m. start time, with the 0 hour, starting things off with a lot of brand new announcements tonight, and the first of which includes Stu Grayson versus El Phantasmo. We've also got on the card local affiliates with the Gates of Agony and Swerve taking on Roppongi Vice and El Desperado. We've also got United Empire's Kyle Fletcher, Jeff Cobb, and TJP taking on LIJ with Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Bushi. And the first round continues from the Owen Cup tournament with Athena taking on Billy Starks. Any particular highlights you care to discuss or outcomes that you wanted to see?
I think Phantasmo versus Grayson is going to be an awesome match. I'll be curious to see. There is this storyline that they have going now with Grayson and Vincent and Dutch sort of wooing him away from Dark Order, and so he's kind of turned on them. I'll be curious to see if they thread that in at all, or if they just let the two of them have a match. I tend to think they might just let the two of them have a match because they're going to be pressed for time. I really like the Mogul affiliates with Swerve Union that they've done. So happy to see. I'm very happy to see that Swerve is just popping up everywhere. They haven't found the program for him yet, but they are making sure that they keep him very, very visible. So happy for that. And I'm happy to get my Desperado fix. And
are you of the opinion that Billy Stark should win in advance over Athena?
I had been thinking, I'm generally in agreement with that. I think that as much as you don't want to give Athena's losses away cheaply, I think having Starks beat her and make this big impression coming out, she just graduated high school. She may not, there's been no official announcement of her signing. So if you have her come out, beat Athena, who's been the most dominant woman in the entire company, and set herself up as a challenger and do the reveal, Billy Starks is all elite, I think that makes for a great moment. Now, if she's not actually signed, it's a little dicier, but I think that I lean towards thinking she's signed. It's not wrong to have Athena win, but it would be a really cool moment if they set in motion a title program if they had Starks pull the upset.